the Beano at 85. Jennifer, morning Jennifer, says, I got a Beano annual every Christmas since a young age, and I loved it, tried to get my own kids to read it, no avail. You're right, it's definitely a generational thing. So we're going to be talking about the comics and people with memories of the Dandy. Of course, the Dandy came out on a Monday, I remember that. Oh. The Dandy, the Beezer, the Topper, Bunty as well, which was the girls' comic.
Oh, I would have liked that then.
I had Bunty.
The Bunty.
Yeah, did you have Bunty?
I had Bunty, but I also had the Beano and Whizzer and Chips.
Oh, Whizzer and Chips?
Yeah, loved
Whizzer and Chips. But you know Whizzer and Chips was a combination of two comics.
It was, but by the time I had it, it was one comic.
Yes, yeah. So it was the Whizzer and the Chips.
Well, as you can see, we've got the lovely Emma Burnell with us right now, and Candice Holdsworth as well. Very pleased to have you both with us today. Emma, should we start with you as we go through the papers? We'll look at the front page of the Mail, shall we? And Bar Under Fire is the headline. Tell us more.
Well, I think the bar's under the fire from the Mail. I'm not sure the bar's under fire from anyone it's particularly concerned. But essentially, the Mail had a story whereby some lawyers were being seen to concoct or embellish the stories of people seeking asylum.
We'll give people the right answers. That's what we were doing. It's an undercover...
Yeah, and it's... there are bad apples, but they've kind of expanded this into all immigration lawyers are doing this, and Rishi Sunak has made it all immigration lawyers and the Labour Party and the system that's set up, and it's like, well, dude, you've been in charge of the system for 13 years. If you really had that big a problem with it, you should have done something. But actually, I think it's one of those things where you can find a bad apple in the same way that we do find this with politicians, and it's really difficult because what then happens is everyone thinks, oh, they're all doing these things. All policemen are Wayne Couzens. All lawyers are telling their clients to lie to the immigration service. All politicians are on the take. And it's actually not the case. So I think... while I absolutely see where the Mail is coming from and why they're making a great deal from what was a good scoop for them, I think some of the way that this has come into the political arena is really... and this idea that the bar should not be saying, actually, lawyers are not like that for the most part, is a bit over-egging the pudding. OK. In the Mirror, front page of the Mirror, Candice, station ticket offices, which we just ran a report on 10 minutes ago. What have you got to say? Yeah, so this is in the Mirror. So the Department for Transport and the train services companies had a meeting, and now they're going to extend the consultation for getting rid of ticket officers because there's been such a backlash from people campaigning for the disabled and the elderly. They say it's going to make it really hard for them to operate at these train stations because not everyone can use the technology in the same way. So it's sort of a really good cost-saving measure, but you're sort of forgetting people who find it difficult to use digital technology. And isn't it just nicer to talk to a person? Just generally, isn't that just a nicer thing to do? Yes, and especially at train stations, they're some of the most helpful people. Oh, yeah. I mean, I had a terrible incident once where my dog fell between the gap between the platform and the train. Oh, my God. And one of the guys working on the concourse, he leapt in immediately and pulled her out. And, I mean, that's just such a common experience that they are just the most helpful people. Yeah, what would you do without them in that situation? Recycling. This is in the Eye. The Prime Minister delays a recycle plan. Yeah, this is part of the ongoing overreaction to the Uxbridge and South Ruislip result, whereby Sunak believes that he can win the next election by going back on all his Green plans. But it is worth pointing out that in some of the seats where the Tories were competing, Somerton and Frome, for example, the Lib Dems got 10%. Sorry, not the Lib Dems, the Greens got 10% of the vote there. So I think there's been a real overreaction from both Labour and the Tories in terms of suddenly wanting to junk all of their Green policies and thinking that's going to be electorally successful. For either party, I think it's a mistake. People are a lot more subtle and in the middle and nuanced on this than a lot of the dialogue at the moment. So, yeah, I think it's really important that we have good recycling. I think there are a lot of issues with some of the pipelines, some of the ways that we're able to recycle, what actually happens with what we put into our recycling bins. All of these things need to be looked at. But I'm a bit worried that there's this immediate reaction to junk everything green, whilst at the same time most of Europe's on fire.
And it's quite confusing as well because, you know, Rishi Sunak has said that he's committed to net zero, but now rowing back slightly. So you sort of wonder where he is on it now. I mean, there's been a backlash to things like ULEZ, the LTNs, those sorts of things, but a lot of political consensus around stuff like clean water.
Yeah.
So it's sort of trying to find those points, I think.
Absolutely.